From WLWT, this is Issues.
Hello everyone, I'm Courtis Fuller and welcome to Issues and Merry Christmas to all of you. The topic that we have to share with you on this Christmas is a tough one because it involves crime, two cases that remain unsolved, and so you have two families who will celebrate Christmas but without a precious loved one. Both of these crimes happened in Hamilton this year, and so here to talk a little bit more about this and the situation that they're facing and the fact that they need your help on this Christmas and hopefully not far beyond this. They need your help solving these crimes. And with me, first of all, is Rebecca Sandle and also Serina Knight. And thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
As I've said to you, I know that the last place that you would want to be is here talking about what we're about to talk about. So let's get right to it. Your son, Christopher,
Yes.
20 years old, had just turned 20,
That's
January of this year, was murdered. And I said to you, I don't want to focus as much on all the particulars of the crime. I think it's important for people to understand what took place, but we'll move through this and then talk about what you've been doing to survive, first of all, and then how people can help. So take me back to January.
Sure. January 13th of this year, and somebody broke into our home in Hamilton between 6 and 6:30 in the morning in a home that we'd lived in for 8 years, and broke into that home and went upstairs and shot my son to death. Of course, we were all home, so myself and my young daughter, who's 10 years old, had to watch my son dying, which is something that you will never, ever come back from. You won't. And my son, CJ, didn't make it. He did not make it. For somebody to come in a home where a family stays is a heinous thing to do. And we still do not have answers. No one has come forward, and I live every day of my life without one of my greatest gifts, which is my children.
I know that you've had this question in your mind all year, and police have asked this question, probably why. What were the circumstances that you think could have caused this?
Right, and that is a question that we go over consistently every day, because the why is what leads to the who, and this is why I reach out at least 4 to 5 times a day via social media, pleading for somebody to come forward, because at 20 years of age, although our children are around us, they're out. They're being 19 and 20-year-olds, and in Jaylon's case, a young 18-year-old. And this is where it comes down to the people that you know. What do they know about who you were around, who you were with, what you were doing? In no way are we ever saying under any circumstances that somebody deserves to die, but as you said, we have to know the why before we can figure out the who. So I do. What on earth is there? What possible reason could there be to do something like that? When that person came in my home, I'm quite sure that they were fully aware of who was in that house, that I was in that house, that my little girl was in that house, and they did not care. They did not care that a then 9-year-old child was going to see something that she'll never be able to come back from. She's a different child herself now.
I want to fast forward to March 11th, and then after we set this scene, I want to go back, and I've come to know your son through you, and so I feel like I know him, the things that he liked and the people he knew. But we'll talk about them in a moment. But now we fast forward to March 11th, and you obviously get a call that day of what took place. So tell me what, because it was about the same time of the day, 6:30 in the morning. So
my situation was a lot different because my son went to school in the morning. So when he left that morning, I assumed he was going to school, so I went on to work. I didn't get the call till later that afternoon, and there had been a lot of family members saying that they saw news clips in a car, and it looked like Jaylon's car. And I don't watch TV, so I didn't think anything. I called, I texted, and just figured he was in class. When I finally did get the call, they asked me to come down to the police station. I still didn't know what was going on. And once the detective told me that my son was in an accident, I couldn't understand why we were still at the police station. Like, let's go to the hospital. But thankfully, I had my family right there by my side, and they told us. And it wasn't an easy pill to swallow because I still wanted to see him. I wanted to confirm it and make it real for me. And it was days before that was able to happen. So it's still a shock. It's still disbelief. It's still hope that it's not real. But reality is, 9 months later, it is.
Tell me a little bit about Jaylon, and his name is Christopher, but you guys called him CJ. So tell me a little bit about Jaylon.
Jaylon is my boogie. I called him Boogie because he danced all the time. Even as a baby, he would always bop to some music. Jaylon was the glue. He was the one that always makes people smile. He just loved to be very family oriented.
Getting ready to graduate from high school?
Getting ready. He was a basketball player. He worked full time at Captain D's. He had just gotten his car. He was a video game junkie. Loved video games. And it's nothing that Jaylon wouldn't do for anybody. And that's something that everybody who knows Jaylon can say it. And he was my prince. That's what I call him.
CJ, tell us a little bit about CJ.
CJ was a gentle giant. He was 6'4", great at sports, but he was renowned for being the big, silly, goofy teddy bear. That's everyone would say that about him. And we moved here again from Australia 15 years ago, and CJ was born in Auckland, New Zealand. And he was a great big brother. I mean, he would sit in his baby sister's room and do her makeup. And he'd be so mad at me for saying that. But she looked up to him, and he was kind. He was kind. I think that's why Serina and I are so drawn to each other, is our boys were very similar in that regard. They were kind people and cared about others, and I miss him. I miss him a lot.
I'm going to take a break, and then we'll come back. We'll talk a little bit about what they've been doing really to get this message out. And it is difficult because they have to go through the media. Yes, there's social media, but getting the word out and making sure people know that that someone has not been arrested for these crimes is easier. I mean, it's harder than many of you think to get that message out. So anyway, we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Courtis Fuller. Here with me, Rebecca Sandle and Serina Knight. They're both talking about very tragic cases. Both happened in the city of Hamilton this year. Rebecca lost her son, CJ, in January, and Serina lost her son, Jaylon, in March, both homicide victims. Getting the word out is probably harder than anyone can imagine. We've talked many times, but I would imagine sometimes it feels like no one is listening to what is the most important thing that you're doing. How difficult has that been, getting the message out?
Very.
I think it's not necessarily just getting the message out, but getting people to understand. My shirt says, "Here's something, say something." Mm-hmm. And there's so much talk among people in the streets, but no one comes forward to contact the police. There's people all around Cincinnati in different communities that hear, and the story with my son, Jaylon, is consistent, what is being heard, but no one is giving these names to the police so that they can make arrests. And so it's concerning to me that, you know, everybody knows what happens, everybody knows the situation, they know people who are involved, but no one is willing to come forward.
That must be mind-boggling.
It is.
I honestly can't imagine the situation you face, and sadly we do far too many of these stories. You found it the same way, because and we should note that Hamilton police, overwhelmed, they're dealing with a lot of cases, and a lot of police departments don't have the real resources to handle all of these cases. So when we say they need the public's help, they need the public's help.
They need the public's help. It's not magic. You can't make wine out of water. They need people to come forward and say something. Like Serina said, hear something, say something. Mine is, for every reason to tell a lie, there's an even bigger reason to tell the truth. It takes that one person to do the right thing and come forward, and then everyone will follow suit. But as you said, it's unfortunate we're not the only two mothers that have lost their children. This happens every day. This happens, and it will continue to happen. And that is the message that I try to portray, is that get these people off the street before another mother is sitting here having an interview with you about their child having been shot or killed by violence.
The two of you met, you were telling me, through a conference, sadly, that brings families together who have suffered a tragedy like this. Yes. You've become friends through these tragedies. Again, I'm certain the two of you would say, I would trade not ever meeting you. But tell me how that has helped each of you, just by knowing that there's someone else who truly understands when you're screaming. And,
it is, and unfortunately, I wish she didn't have to understand, but it's a pain like no other, and any child loss is horrendous, but somebody chose to do this to our children, and they're walking freely. It's Christmas, and they're walking freely amongst us. They may be someone that someone out there says hello to. They're spending Christmas with their family. Their family may not know what they've done, but Serina has, I have no family here with not being from the country, and Serina and all of her family have been just like Jaylon, and nothing but kind. Right. I spent Thanksgiving with their family with open arms. They've embraced us, and I'm thankful for that, and that's a blessing. But again, as you said, I would trade it, and I know she would as well, to not ever know each other if we could have our boys back.
You know, we can only do so much through this thing called TV, and we try to share as much information as we can when we can. And so when we say we need your help, we need your help. If you know anything about either one of these cases, you should contact Hamilton Police Department. Contact the Hamilton Police Department. You can call Crime Stoppers. You can call me. Call someone, tell someone about what you know. This is just unimaginable. And so let's try the best we can collectively to solve these two and many more cases out there in the year 2017. Let's commit to that as we end 2016. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good seeing both of you. We've become friends too.
We are.
All right, we will take a break and we will come back, and a book that will inspire you and these two ladies here. Back in a moment. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Courtis Fuller. Now we are going to talk to someone who wrote a book, and it seems fitting that we talk about this book on this day. It's called Miracles from Heaven. And with me is Kenyata Packer. And so first of all, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I have to ask you, how did you come up with that title?
I came up with the title just because I believe that I'm a miracle from heaven. There have just been multiple things that has happened to me in my life. And when I got the inspiration to write the book, that just seems fitting.
In the first line, you say the book was inspired by God, which is powerful.
Yes, yes. There's been many miracles that has happened to me throughout my life, but within like a 4-year period, there was just undeniable miracles that began to happen to me. And I just began to pray and ask the Lord, like, why are these things happening to me? Because things happen to people, but not like they were happening to me. And so I went to church probably that following Sunday after praying a couple weeks, and my his sermon was about everybody has a story, and that you need to share your story to encourage others. And sometimes, we go through things that nobody else thinks that they're going through. And so when we can share our story and be a testimony, then we can help one another.
You just saw two ladies share stories that are a testimony of now their faith, that they can just get through this, walk through this. Again, as a parent, I can't really imagine losing a child in any circumstances, but clearly in such a violent way. I've been doing stories for nearly 40 years about, similar situations. Your book intended to help people, first of all, be inspired to move through that, and then to tell their story.
Exactly.
Because it will help someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then sometimes, I put a lot of miracles in there. Ironically, my grandmother and I used to read the Guiding Post. She used to subscribe to the Guiding Post. That's telling my age a little bit. So she would read it, and it was basically about people that have experienced miracles. And so I never in my wildest dreams would have thought that I would write a book about my life and inspiring people about miracles. But I did also, I think it's the last chapter in the book, make sure that I put something in there, because I really believe that the Lord had told me to do something in particular, and I believed that I was going to get a good result, but it didn't happen. And for the first time in so many years, I was so disappointed, and I kind of felt like God had forsaken me a little bit. But really, He showed me that it wasn't about getting what I thought I was going to get. It was about my obedience and doing what He told me to do. And so, a lot of times we have, in this life, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So in this life, sometimes people think as a Christian that life is perfect and everything is grand, but that's not true. We have many things, that happen to us that we don't understand. And a lot of times we think that God has forsaken us, but actually it's just a plan, to either reach out and share our story to help somebody else, or sometimes it's like we thought that we didn't get something, but it's just not the timing, because, I don't want anything for me if it's not the time. So just to be inspired and to encourage and help one another, and to let others know that we need each other, and that, God can do anything but fail.
Right. It is hard. It is hard when you hear stories like Serina's and Rebecca's.
Exactly.
When you talk about testing your faith,
Exactly.
That will test your faith,
Yeah,
because you have to cry out, why me?
Right.
Why my family? And quite frankly, those are those questions that we might not ever answer.
Exactly.
And that's where that substance of faith comes in. What's been the response to the book? I know that you own a business over in North College Hill, and people come in there and they can get the book.
They can purchase the book. The address is 1727 West Galbraith, a classy image beauty salon. The book is there, and also I sell the book at Amazon.com. But if you get the book from me, I do also take a portion of the proceeds, and I just help people. You know, it's not like a charity, but I just help people that I see need help, or that's struggling in the area. So I do take some of that money to help. So yeah, you can get the book through Amazon or the salon. The number is 513-521-2957. You leave your name and number if no one answers the phone, and we can definitely get you a copy.
What's been the response as people read about these miracles from heaven?
It's actually been wonderful. I mean, when I wrote it, I said if I could just inspire one person, that would be good enough for me. But I have an email on the back, and I tell readers to email me, let me know what they thought. And it has been absolutely wonderful, just being able to encourage and just inspire a lot of people. I've inspired a couple of other people to write a book to tell their story, which is wonderful.
Was that difficult to do?
It was difficult to do.
You self-published?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
A lot of people are doing it.
Yeah, it was difficult because, of course, I had never written a book. The book cover, just putting it together, it was a lot. But one thing that I could say that God has really been faithful, because every time that it just seemed like it was a stumbling block, He would just place somebody right there to help me out. So it's been great. It's been great. I would like to sell more, but I've sold a lot more copies than I thought that I was going to.
Inspire one.
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Kenyata Packer, the book is called Miracles from Heaven. And on a day when the best miracle happened,
exactly.
It's good to have. All right.
Exactly.
We'll be back in a moment. Once again, everyone, have a Merry Christmas. Again, today's topics, when we talk about this violence that's taking place in our area, throughout our country, it's tough, but we need people to see. If you see something, say something. Have a nice day.